I want everybody to say, talk to me then, what? 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 Lady, talk to me then, what? Talk to me then, what?
Greetings. I hope you had a wonderful week and I hope you've been entertained so far, right? I know you've been waiting for what I'm going to be talking about today, or on this episode rather. However, I want to say that today's topic is not going to be, it's going to be a life experience. And when I say life experience, I'm not actually talking about my life, right? But I'm going to be talking about the experience. No. Welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm just going to be talking about my experience with Ntenjwa Talks so far, right? I'm not shitting on anyone today or on this episode. I'm not complimenting anyone. Today, it's about Ntenjwa Talks or it's about me, right? I want to say that, first of all, I now believe, there was something that would always confuse me when a person would just say, just start, right? And then you ask yourself, okay, once I've started, then? Because obviously we've been trained to always expect something whenever you're doing something. Now, when we expect something, we always expect something that's good. We never expect something that's bad. And we never do something to expect something that's bad, right? So, to those, if you're referring to those who start businesses, no one starts a business with the goal to fail, right? It just happens. You either succeed or you fail, right? And then some will tell you, okay, fine, you failed. But how is this failure going to determine, or how is this failure going to drive you from now onwards? What is it gonna drive you into? Is it gonna drive you to trying again, or is it gonna drive you to just stop trying to start any business whatsoever? So are you taking it as a positive L or a negative L? Are you motivated to fail again until you succeed, or you're just giving up completely, right? So back to me. Now, we're just talking, right? You would expect, okay, I'm going to get positive interactions or positive engagements, or I'm going to get negative interactions or negative engagements. But I just want to say that some people just want to listen to what you have to say. Whether it's bad or good, some people just want to listen to what you want to say, right? Others, it may be because they're respecting the fact that you're exercising your freedom of speech, right? Your right to freedom of speech, sorry. You're exercising your right to freedom of speech. Others, if they've heard of you or they know you, they want to hear what you have to say. Are you going to say something that favors them, or are you going to say something that's against them, right? Which is where the positive and negative engagement comes in, right? But also another thing that I never initially planned for this venture is to actually analyze myself. How exactly do I talk? Right? You always think that whenever you are speaking, there's nothing wrong with the way you speak or the way you talk. You don't know, maybe your voice is high pitched or low pitched. You don't know if you're animated or you're not animated. You don't know if you're loud or you are not loud. You don't know if you're getting your points across or not. You don't know if you are concise or not. You don't know if maybe you, between a word and a word, how long does it take you to get from that word to that word? So the silences, how long are the silences? So on and so forth. So it's not necessarily about the views, the likes, the comments, and the shares, and the follows or subscriptions in this case. Just looking at how I interact with people. Because me talking right now, as you see me talk, obviously you're thinking to yourself, I'm just looking at the camera, or I'm talking to the person who's going to be viewing this. But now it made me think that whenever I keep looking back at my episodes, previous episodes, I didn't think to myself, if I was to see me talk, like I'm approaching myself and I'm about to talk to myself, will I understand what he is saying? Is he able to get his points across easily? Does he phrase the words easily? Or does he phrase them correctly? Does he take a long time to get what's in his mind out through his mouth? All of those questions, low pitched, high pitched, so on and so forth. And now I'm glad that I didn't, how am I going to put this? I'm glad that I didn't let this stop me from actually beginning this venture. Because, like I initially said in the first episode, the only reason why I'm doing this is because I just want to share my 2 cents on whatever thoughts I have in my mind. Right? So all these topics were just thoughts that are in my mind, and I was just sharing them. Or thoughts on my topics, on the topics that I thought of, right? Of which I must say, there's a lot of things I can say just about this venture on its own, without even comparing to whoever is successful or whoever failed at doing this, right? So, like I said, I don't have any goals per se or plans per se. I'm just sharing my 2 cents, right? Because you would think that maybe, this is his attempt to doing this or this is his attempt to doing that. No, I'm just sharing my 2 cents, right? Now, this is a better way of also paying attention to how I communicate with people. Because the way I am communicating with you is the way I communicate with people, right? So you may think, maybe this is his positive side or good side, or maybe this is his bad side or negative side. No, this is how I communicate with people. So obviously, if I don't communicate with you, then there's a problem with you, right? So I just like to say, first of all, before I continue, that whatever it is that you wanted to start, just start it. Just start it. What's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen if you start said business or said venture? What's the worst that's going to happen? Right? So just start it. Just start. Now, if you've been the perfect way to actually analyze yourself is if you're not going to show it to the public, rather just record yourself speaking, right? And then you can analyze it in so many different ways. You can watch the video on mute, see how, no, let me not say this, just to pay attention to how you move when you're communicating. You can listen to the audio version. So just not watch the video, put the phone down, or face it somewhere where you're not going to be able to see yourself, but you're going to be able to listen to yourself. How long does it take for you to get those ideas across, or how long are the silences between words? All of those things, right? And then grammar was so on and so forth, right? Now, I'm not saying that you're gonna get it perfect the first time, because some people have the skill. To them, speaking and talking and communicating is a skill. You would most likely see this with people who have been in debate teams or salesmen, successful salesmen, right? Because not every salesman communicates very well. And I'm saying this as a person who used to be in the sales game, right? You would think you know how to sell something until you're selling it to someone. And don't think of it like you're selling it to someone who your typical difficult customers or the loyal customers. No, just selling it to someone. Yeah, you'd be surprised. So others, to them, communicating is a skill. Communicating, if you were to think of a person who's good at communicating, that person fits the description, right? So others treat it as a skill. To others, they wish they would never able, or they wish rather to, if it was up to them, they would never speak at all. They would either write, in fact, they wouldn't even, yeah, they'd probably write, but they wouldn't even want to look at you at all, right? So I just want to say that I'm actually pretty grateful that I did this way, that I started this venture. In my mind, I never thought of, but what if I make a mistake, or what if I didn't phrase the words properly, or maybe the sentence is not grammatically correct, and all of these things, right? Oh, what are they gonna say about me? I'm not even able to speak well, right? Didn't cross my mind. Paying attention to what I've been sharing to the world, basically, either through Ntenjwa Talks or through AI Ntenjwa Productions. I look to myself and think, you know what? I actually need to improve. And I'm glad I did it this way, because some people maybe would have been like, doesn't even know how to speak properly. Well, that's feedback, right? I'm not one who's afraid of feedback, positive or negative, right? Because at the end of the day, that person is sharing their thoughts on what I've been saying, or they're sharing their thoughts on me, right? So if their thoughts are, this guy doesn't know how to communicate, okay, cool then, which means I now need to learn how to communicate, right? So obviously you're going to think to yourself, but what if that person who says you don't know how to communicate doesn't even know how to use grammar properly? Pretty good argument. However, I would argue though, right? Maybe his or her thoughts on you not being able to communicate properly according to him or her was maybe because there was one sentence that was not grammatically correct, or one word that you didn't phrase properly that he or she knows for some reason, right? It's feedback. It's feedback though. So, of course, not saying chase perfection, but if you were to be completely honest with yourself, you know for a fact that you can improve. Maybe read a dictionary. I mean, to be quite honest, I'm actually now seeing the need to read a dictionary. Yeah, read a dictionary, do something. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do, but read the dictionary. Now I see the power of reading books. I'm not really a fan of reading books. I have been reading books though, and I'm not talking about school. Like, I have been reading books, but I wouldn't classify myself as a person who is entertained by reading books, right? So I may know certain books, I may know what they talk about, but I haven't actually read them. Because for me, reading is boring. Like, no one has actually made me a person, or maybe motivated me to read books. You get what I'm saying? Like, you know how there was never this good pressure that you'd get from someone who would say, you know what, if you read books, this, and that. There's never been a fun reason to read books. It's always learning, learning, learning. Now, if you are a person, obviously, if you go into school, 9 times out of 10, you're a person who prefers to do something that's fun rather than to learn, because learning has always been boring, right? So now I see the need. Obviously, if you're a person who reads books, good for you, because I'd be expecting you to be better than me at communicating, or at least phrasing everything correctly, right? Maybe not be as confident, because most people who read books are introverts, most. Not all of them, most. So if you're not an introvert but you read books, I'm not talking about you. But I'm referring to those, to the stereotype that you would usually associate someone who reads books with introverts, or they are introverts. So, but I see the power of reading books, reading the dictionary. There's obviously better ways of doing something. Maybe you don't even have to read books, or maybe you can just listen to the audio version, instead of just reading, actually reading. You can actually listen to the audio version and then do something else whilst listening. Think of it like music, right? So anyway, I feel like I'm now going to also take this as a practice session for me practicing how to speak. Now, I'm going to be treating it that way, but obviously you're going to be seeing myself. You are going to be seeing me practice how to communicate or how to share my thoughts properly. So obviously, you are now going to experience me actually attempt to get better at communicating. Because this is going to be part of my story that, hey, I actually got better at communicating with Ntenjwa Talks. The reason why I'm good at communicating is because of Ntenjwa Talks. Now, you're thinking to yourself, I'm already confident at talking, at speaking, and communicating. I'm not afraid to share my thoughts. Obviously, like I said, I used to be a salesman, right? So that was another way I had to learn how to communicate. I've never been an introvert, but also I wouldn't consider myself an extrovert, because I don't just go to people, hi, how are you? And, just be open, right? However, I would say that I know that there's a lot of things I need to improve in to be one of these amazing communicators, being able to communicate. There's you can be an effective communicator or an efficient communicator. You can say something which would be a paragraph on something and it would sound so amazing. Or you can just say one sentence that's going to be as impactful. or you can be both. If you are dealing with someone who wants you to elaborate on whatever it is that you're saying, effective communicator. If you want someone who has no time, or maybe you're in an elevator with someone that you want to impress in an elevator between first floor and fifth floor, right? So you're not getting even a minute of his or her time. You have to be an efficient communicator, right? Obviously, there's competent or competitive communicator. You would think debates and whatnot, even sales, right? You can be a competitive communicator sales if you are in a room full of salesmen. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why salesmen, they are good at everything that involves communication. Selling themselves, selling their business or product or service, being able to get women, right? Or if you're a woman, you're able to tell a man what exactly you're selling yourself to a man, not in that dirty way, but you being able to tell the man, listen, this is what I'm good at, right? Even in animation, I've actually noticed if you're a person who is not animated at all when they communicate with someone, that's another thing you can use or add to your arsenal, right? Be animated, but also how do you animate yourself? So I notice I animate myself when I speak, but now I have to properly animate myself. So see, these are all the things, right? These are all the things that I'm just noticing that I want you, since you're viewing this episode, I want you to actually pay attention to all of this, right? And I hope it improves the way you communicate with people, right? I even notice sometimes it depends who I'm talking to. Like sometimes I'd even catch myself stuttering. And I really don't understand why, because I'm not a person who had, okay, I used to be a person who, what do they call this? Speech delayed, right? Yeah, funny enough, I was a kid who took quite a long time to learn how to talk, right? So anyway, now you wouldn't even be able to tell that I was a speech delayed kid, right? So anyway, I feel like if you are able, see, even as I'm talking right now, I can already tell I just did this right now and it's not good. Here's what I want you to get from this, right? I want you to use what I just shared with you as something that will improve you. Now, you know what exactly is preventing you or stopping you from actually being good at communicating. So just make sure that you fix that. I already know there's a number of things that I need to fix about myself when it comes to communicating. I'm not even talking about what I've shared so far with this venture, just this episode. Out of all the many episodes that I'm going to share in the future, right? Just make sure that from this episode, you do something that's going to lead you to be good at communicating. That's all. Because even when it comes to topics, because some people are like, okay, fine, I'm starting a talk show or I'm starting a podcast. What am I going to talk about? Well, knowledge. Knowledge. Find something to talk about. Meaning, if you are a person, since everyone has a phone addiction now, but whatever it is that you're consuming, all the content that you're consuming, you telling me that out of all the content you've consumed, there's nothing you can talk about? Seriously? Share your opinion. See you next episode.
I want everybody to say, talk to me then, what? Talk to me then.